Hi everybody, welcome to the first class of our housebound photography course. This is going to be a very short video since it's about only one simple topic, and that is shutter speed. How it works, where you can find it on your camera, and how it affects your photography. And also what you can do with it to maximize different types of photos. Every camera has a shutter. It's either a mechanical shutter like the one that you would find on a camera like this, or it can be an electronic shutter like what you would have on your cell phone. Either way, they both do the same thing. They're both used to limit how much light can reach the sensor on your camera. The sensor requires a certain amount of light in order to make a photo, and that's exactly what it does. It opens for a certain length of time and then it closes. And while it's open, it lets in as much light as is necessary in order to properly expose a photo, which makes it look nice. And of course, by nice, I mean to make it look the way that you want it to look, so that it looks either as colorful or has as much blur or as little blur as that you would like to have. Let's take a look at a couple of examples of how somebody might shoot a photo indoors versus outdoors and what happens when you have different amounts of shutter speed. In this demonstration, I'd like to show you what happens when we're in a typical environment like inside your house, where there isn't a lot of light. Even though it looks like there's a lot of light to us as we're looking around the house, we're used to seeing whatever we see just like normal. But when you try to take a photo of something, it's a different story. Let me show you what I mean. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take a photo of Charlotte as she's jumping off of the couch. So you ready, Charlotte?
Yep.
So just take a jump towards me. Yeah, just like normal, like you would if you're having fun with your friends. Go.
No.
So what happens when we do the same test when we're outside in full sunlight? Let me show you. So I'm going to take a photo of Charlotte jumping towards me. We're doing everything so that's just a little too bright. Okay, so whenever you're ready, Charlotte. So in this photo today, or outside, we're using full sunlight, so the shutter speed just goes up, and you'll see what the results are. So Charlotte, what are we looking at here?
A photo of me jumping.
Yeah, when did we do this photo?
At the start of the video.
Yeah, so what do you notice about this photo that isn't great?
It's very blurry and you can't see anything.
Exactly. So if you remember, you were jumping towards the camera, and you'll notice if you look at the sides here and here, you can see that the camera actually moved while the photo was taken. If you look at these lines here, that's all from you moving as you're jumping towards the camera. Why do you think that happened?
Because of the light.
Exactly. We had too little light in order to take, or not enough light in order to take a good photo. So how would we fix that? How did we fix it?
We went outside.
Aha. Look at that. So this is the photo we took after, which you probably already saw earlier, but what happened here is you jumped off there. All I did was take one quick photo and that was it. Everything is perfectly clear. So what do you think I did that was different?
There's more light.
There's more light, except in my case, I didn't actually do anything different. The camera did everything on its own. It changed the shutter speed to a higher number here. So this is a much faster shutter speed, probably around 1/1000th of a second. This one is probably close to about 1/10 to 1/5 of a second. That's why it's so much more blurry. So that's one way we do better photos when we're using a camera and we're using an automatic mode. Just go outside where there's lots of light. So what we've learned so far is that your camera's shutter speed controls the motion in a photo. That includes both the motion of the photographer and the motion of your subject. So in this case, you see Charlotte jumping over a large puddle. If you look over at the details about the photo here on the right, you can see that my camera shutter speed was 1/800th of a second, which is a very fast shutter speed, at least for objects that aren't moving too fast. But in this case, it worked out perfectly where Charlotte's captured is still in midair and there's no motion blur from the photographer. That's how we take advantage of that. Now, moving on to a different type of photo, you'll notice that if you look at the waterfall that's here in the foreground, the water is very smooth and looks very blurred out, and that's because there's plenty of motion going on there. If you look over on the right hand side again, you'll see that my shutter speed was 20, which is 20-second exposure. So my shutter was open that entire time. So how did I stop myself from having any motion blur from the camera itself? Well, I put my camera on a tripod and I left the shutter open for 20 seconds while enough light came in to expose for this photo. One more example of using the motion blur to your advantage is, in this case, this is a flock of birds in Nepal flying, and what I did as the birds flew is I spun around at the same rate as the birds were flying, and it made the background more blurry than the foreground. If you look over one more time at the side here, you can see that my shutter speed was 1/30th of a second, which is a pretty good shutter speed to use for doing panning motion blur shots.
Now that you've seen this video, please send me your questions so I can ask my dad them and not feel so useless.
I think that's a great idea. To make sure that you don't miss any of these videos, please subscribe using the subscribe button below and use the bell icon so that you'll be notified whenever a new one comes out. That way you won't miss anything that's coming up. The next one that we have coming is about aperture. Yes, we're still in kind of the more boring stuff at the moment, but we'll get to the more exciting stuff as you learn a bit more about your camera and what photography is all about. Thanks very much for watching. Stay safe in your house, and we'll see you in the next video. See you later. You can say bye.
Bye!